women in particular. Hate crimes against the members of LGBTQIA plus community, which continue to plague our society. And of course, the Western Cape is not an exception. And I hope that the delegates will address the issues of corruption and nepotism when it comes to workplace and job seeking opportunities and other, either be it business or other opportunities. But also, of course, young people, I hope you will address the effects of the global pandemic brought by COVID-19 coronavirus. And of course, the issues that we've seen affecting our businesses and affecting the opportunity for young people to seek job and find work, brought by load shedding in South Africa and the Western Cape has been particularly affected by this. And I do hope that in our engagement here, as we seek to find solutions to the ongoing challenges, young people here will address the issues of the registration in the pursuit of the democratic rights of young people to express themselves in an election that is coming later this year, because we do know, as much as the IEC will address this, that young people have not in the main participated in numbers, especially the younger age 18 to 24, but it is also important that the ages up to 35 are encouraged to participate and encourage other young leaders, because here as leaders in this youth parliament, our responsibility is to ensure that we participate in campaigns that seeks to encourage young people across spectrum to ensure that they register, to participate and vote in election, but also to be candidates and be elected as councillors and be elected as members of parliament, not only to be led, but also to take front seat in leading other youth and leading society in general. So the theme of this year is the 365 days of youth lived experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, it seeks to look at the issues that have affected young people, especially the issues that I flagged here. Not limited to those issues, but I mean, it is important to look at what is it that has confronted, especially the young people at school, who some could be connected because they've got means and study online, but others could not. How do we then address that? Hence, we've got the Minister of Education here in the Western Cape, Honorable Debbie Schaefer, who is going to be dealing with some of these issues and, of course, taking questions from all of you and engaging in a dialogue and finding solutions as we embrace this new normal. I also want to say at this point, this is not an opportunity to try and lambast one another and try to, to appear to be the one that spoke better. It's about really flagging the issues and articulating these issues and using this opportunity to bring the issues to the fore so that the members of parliament can take these issues on our behalf as young people and bring them to the members in the cabinet so that the ministers can address these issues, whether it be an issue that affects your municipality or an issue that affects the provincial government or an issue that affects the national government. But these are issues that you should bring forward here. You are given a platform and an opportunity to speak what concerns you, your community, and the organization or the sector that you represent, or the political formation that you represent. But what is important here, we all lead people. We lead young people that some of them don't even know which party they support. They just support that this country must go forward, and some of them are non-partisan. That is why this forum is, in its nature, it includes young people at school, young people in communities that are not at school, but who are active in terms of the sector of young people that affects young people, but also young people who are in political formations. And we also have young members of parliament who will be speaking here today. And of course, not so young members of parliament that will be speaking here today, but it is also an opportunity to have a blended approach in our program. I just want to further add that we're learning as we go along, and as a sector, we continue to share experiences between the different provincial parliaments in how best to engage young people. This is not the purest form, but it is by no means, you know, a way of saying that we've met all of the young people. We know there are limitations because some of the young people cannot connect because of data, and they also can connect for a limited period. And we would like to ensure that in future we'll continue to seek means and ways to ensure that we've got zero-rated platform. We've been trying to achieve this, but some of the challenges are legislative, are in the act, which does not allow us in terms of the national legislation. So we are doing everything possible. It was raised in the previous youth parliament that we would like young people to be connected virtually and have a zero-rated platform. And we continue to be awake to this reality. And I just want to ensure that nobody loses focus on why we also meet here, because in 1976, young people died in pursuit of justice, equal rights, and ensuring that there's human dignity for our young people in this country and access to education. So it is important in pursuit of this debate today that we remember all of that. At this stage, I would like to say to the distinguished guests here, delegates, honorable members, I'm not going to spend much time between myself and the Deputy Speaker, but would like to give an opportunity to the young people to speak and the honorable members. I'm now handing over straight to the Honorable Deputy Speaker to share her remarks before she leaves us, because she will not be here for the whole day. There are other commitments that both myself were supposed to be attending, but like all of you, we had to divide ourselves and ensure that this youth parliament continues as scheduled in light of the limited, you know, structure which the president has encouraged, that we all try and minimize the spread, because this COVID-19 and the new strain is not so easy. And it's something that we need to take responsibility and ensure that we work, but we do so in a way that is responsible. So hence, this is now a completely virtual parliament, no longer a hybrid as we were going to do. And I hope that you all understand, and thank you very much for your cooperation. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Good morning, Speaker, ministers and members of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, special guests. A very good morning to all our young people watching this event across towns and platforms on a very, very cold and wet winter morning in the Western Cape. Life, I'm sure, is not as you had imagined it would be. History has not prepared you as a young person for the past 18 months. Everything as you know it has shifted. Everything as you know it has changed. We've all become used to a normal that doesn't look quite normal now. And while young people have to deal with challenges around a future that doesn't stimulate hope in each and every one of you, I'm sure you all feel that the pandemic has made it rather difficult to imagine a future life filled with dreams. But that's not true. Robert Longley, a poet, a coach, and an author of many books, wrote this, and I quote, "Stand up to the fury, let the torrents rage, keep things moving forward, stand firm and turn the page. It's just part of the story, a challenge to be won, a dragon for the slaying, so as to meet the morning sun. Tomorrow brings another and more each passing day. It's about how we get through it. It's how we find a way. This strength reveals resilience to deal with what lies in store, facing each day's challenge and coming back for more." Close quotes. Resilience, as Robert Longley said, is very much about digging deep within ourselves, finding that inner voice that gives you a reason to take a step forward and to move past those trying times. We often look back and see how life has prepared us along the way. I say move forward each day like a river flows easily over the rocks. This event too shall pass, and you will be prepared, trained, and ready to take on the next challenge. I thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker, for those kind and warm words of motivation and encouragement to the young people here today. We really appreciate it, and I know that you'll be on and off, but we are aware of that. And please do feel free to continue with the other programs before you. Honorable members, the delegates, I'm going to now hand over to the Honorable Member Mireille Wenger, who is the Chief Whip of the Majority Party in the Provincial Parliament, and that is the Democratic Alliance. But of course, in this capacity here today, Honorable Chief Whip, I will refer to you as the chairperson of the ad hoc committee on COVID-19, and you are here in that capacity. Once again, thank you very much for agreeing to join us here today and speak to our young people on your work that you've done, and exceptional work that you've done with your committee during the first wave up to now of the COVID-19. Thank you very much, and over to you, Honorable Chief Whip, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much for this opportunity to address the 2021 Western Cape Youth Parliament as Chair of the COVID-19 Ad Hoc Committee. A very good morning to you all. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted every aspect of our lives and our livelihoods. As of today, globally, there have been 181 million confirmed cases of COVID, almost 4 million deaths, and 2.9 billion vaccines administered. The majority of people who have contracted the virus have recovered. A small number of them are experiencing lingering symptoms called long COVID, and many have tragically passed away from this virus. At the outset, we remember every person whose life has been taken by this disease and those that are suffering its aftermath, which has changed our world, and every household across the globe has been impacted. In the past year, the wake of COVID-19 and its resulting lockdowns have created unimaginable consequences for economies, for mental well-being, for families, for friends, and for learning. It has led to one of the worst economic downturns in recent years, and economies are very slowly recovering from its effects. But before we were hit by this pandemic, we know that in particular, the social and economic integration of young South Africans was a problem. This has been exacerbated by the COVID pandemic. And in South Africa presently, youth unemployment is currently at 63% for 15 to 24-year-olds and 41% for 25 to 34-year-olds. The recent Education Department COVID survey shows that the pandemic has brought stress and anxiety and even loneliness amongst some of our young people. We must take action now so that our youth do not suffer severe and long-lasting impacts from this pandemic. This is why initiatives such as the Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19 have been established. It is Parliament's contribution to conduct oversight over the executive in its management of the coronavirus disease pandemic. By using a structured and thematic approach, it has given the committee the necessary teeth to really unpack the impact of COVID on the Western Cape, inviting and questioning some of the most important national and provincial departments, entities, and role players. The committee meets regularly and receives briefings on health indicators and to know what's happening with vaccines, and we also have citizen engagement. We use Microsoft Teams so that the Western Cape Provincial Parliament can be open and accessible to all. All our proceedings are broadcast on YouTube so that the public, media, youth, and anybody that is interested is able to easily access virtual sittings, not only of the COVID-19 Ad Hoc Committee, but all committees of the Provincial Parliament, as well as full sittings. The programme of our legislature has been in full swing throughout different levels of lockdown, including this morning's very swift move to a fully virtual meeting. We have been able to adapt to the times, and we have to be able to adapt. Our move back to level 4 restrictions today is a sobering reminder that COVID-19 will be with us for a while still. At the same time, we are cognizant of our role to play as parliamentarians with a duty to oversee the work of government, especially at this crucial moment. It is a concerted effort which requires deep commitment to the values of constitutional democracy and a willingness to become creative and using technology wisely so that we can demonstrate transparency to our residents. A year after level 5 lockdown, we know a lot more about this virus, how it spreads, how to treat it, and importantly, now we have hope that we did not have when we were last in level 4 lockdown, because now we have effective vaccines that have been developed. We are in a race against COVID. As it mutates and new variants emerge, we can only beat it if we can get people vaccinated as quickly as possible. As we now face our third wave and a severe wave of COVID-19 infections, let the youth be the judge of how well we have managed the pandemic over the last 18 months. Young people are concerned about their future and their place within it. And as custodians of government and its oversight bodies, my message to you is we are concerned about your future too. And we must do our very best to make sure that we get through this pandemic as well as we can, and so that we can protect youth employment, protect youth education, protect youth mental well-being, and protect youth rights. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and thank you very much for, again, taking the opportunity to address our young people and for sharing the experience as you have just alluded to. I've just noted the Minister who have just joined us. Honourable Minister, in terms of the program, I'm sure you have read the program. You are expected to address the issues around what the challenges have been in terms of the new normal. I mean, we live now in the world of the 4th Industrial Revolution. Fast forward, all of the things that we knew the Deputy Speaker indicated have now changed. And what has then been the approach of the department in terms of dealing with the new order, despite what we are used to? I remember I used to sit here and the teacher is in front of me. That is the traditional way that you know. But now all of a sudden things have changed. So thank you very much, Minister. I know it's not been easy to put everything together, especially to get you here. And you're also prepared to come to the chamber. You told me that you're gonna be there. So thank you very much. And now it's your opportunity to address our delegates here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and good morning to you, Deputy Speaker, Chairperson of the COVID-19 Ad Hoc Committee, members of the Provincial Parliament, guests, and of course our honourable members of the Youth Parliament this morning. Thank you very much, Speaker, firstly for inviting me to address this gathering this morning, this very special gathering of our young people. And I want to also congratulate you on the remarkable display of agility that you showed in literally overnight having to change the entire format of today's meeting. But I think that shows how we've been, as a Western Cape government, we certainly have really led from the front and done absolutely our best with what we have. It really gives me a great pleasure to be able to address you today and give you a little bit of an idea of what we are doing in education during this time, which is so difficult on so many levels. Of course, we know after last night's family meeting, we know that schools are now going to be closing this week, not next week again. And whilst you might initially think, yay, another holiday, many of you may be rightly concerned about the impact on the rest of the school year yet again. It's just over 1 year and 3 months since the hard lockdown at the start of the pandemic. To say that education has been disrupted is an understatement. People often speak of disruption as if it's a really good thing, it's something we should be striving for, and it can be in the right context, but these kind of disruptions wreak absolute havoc on the education system. When schools closed on the 18th of March 2020, it was expected that there would be a month-long school holiday, while teaching time being made up later on in the year. But in the end, many of our grade 5s and 8s only returned to class for the first time on the 31st of August. They had been away from school for 5.5 months. This presented an enormous challenge to all education departments and will have huge impacts on many aspects of learners' lives for years to come. And I mean years to come. Research has been done on the effects of learning losses, even a few months of learning losses, and it affects learners' future earning capacity for the rest of their life sometimes. So there really are very big effects. But during the physical disruption of not being able to attend school, some other very creative disruptions were taking place in the WCED. For many years, we've been working hard to ensure that our teachers are trained on e-learning, that our learners are exposed to a variety of learning platforms, and that e-resources are made available to suit their curriculum needs. Our strategy over the past 5 years has been aimed at ensuring that learning can take place at any time, anywhere. So our department was in a better position than most to be able to quickly provide online support for home learning. Having already developed the e-portal containing e-learning resources that learners could use remotely, it was a matter of expanding resources and capacity to provide support to our learners during this time. Our curriculum and e-learning officials did a fantastic job to rapidly expand this at short notice. To give you an indication of how valuable a resource this is, last year, over 20% of the users were from Gauteng, with a further 7% from KwaZulu-Natal and 2% from the Eastern Cape. Additionally, knowing that the extended closure would suddenly require our teachers to support remote learning, we made sure to provide support for them as well. Because of our commitment to and investment in both teacher professional development and our e-learning platforms, we were in a better position to provide the support to our teachers. The Cape Teaching and Leadership Institute and the e-learning directorate have achieved great strides on this front. The at-home teacher remote teaching and learning series is a self-paced learning opportunity and aims to strengthen and develop a teacher's remote teaching and learning practices, and it explores digital learning tools. But to get our teachers up and running in terms of remote learning quickly, we also produce quick start guides. We're using 5 common platforms for remote teaching: WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube, Google Classroom, and MS Teams. We have all learned a new way of life as so many of our work and education tasks shifted to online platforms and working and learning at home. The shift was sudden and dramatic. This is new territory for most of us. Never mind those parents for whom this is the first time they have really engaged with their child's education. We did find that a lot of parents started appreciating teachers a whole lot more. Parents aren't immersed in the CAPS curriculum like teachers are, and for many this was the first time they had been required to support their children in this manner, often while trying to work themselves. Our e-portal is wonderful, but the thousands of mostly free resources can be a bit overwhelming without guidance. This is why we developed a parent toolkit to help our parents facilitate learning at home, with an overview of various educational platforms and providing guidance on how to create a conducive learning environment at home. The WCED also created weekly lesson plans, a really great initiative, to provide a clear understanding of what concepts needed to be covered each week. We are still producing these to support learners on the days that they are at home because of the ongoing rotational timetabling. So as a whole, we were able to respond admirably to the circumstances. Being very aware that many learners do not have access to data and connectivity, we engaged with the service providers to zero rate a lot of our content, which they did. A number of our schools use WhatsApp, which most people have at home, at least some access to. And some of our schools that couldn't really use the e-resources even made copies of worksheets for learners to collect when they came for their feeding program. But as we recognize the enormous potential and possibilities of online learning, we must accept that this can never replace having our learners in class, in person, with a qualified teacher, especially for the younger children. Firstly, and most obviously, to learn online successfully, you need to have access to the internet, obviously, a device with which to access it, a teacher capable of managing remote learning, and a suitable place at home where you can learn with parental support if you need it. We know for a fact that this is not available to every learner, and we do not in any way have the funding to provide devices and internet to all households for online learning. While our teachers have come up with some incredible ways of using low data alternatives to keep in contact with their learners, for many, the only way to truly get quality learning time is to be in class. Parental support also varies. Many of our learners' parents have done a phenomenal job in making sure their children do all the required homework and have a quiet, safe space to work at home. But many of our parents work full day and making it hard to provide the support their children need to learn from home. In our economy, jobs are extremely scarce, so the choice between going to work to put food on the table and staying home to look after and support your children is a heartbreaking one to make. Of course, this does not mean we will stop looking at online and remote learning options, not at all, but we do need to be aware that not everyone has the capacity to take advantage of them yet. But the difficulty with remote learning goes further than this. Going to school isn't just about transferring academic knowledge. Schools provide a setting in which learners develop their social and emotional skills, along with key skills they will need later in life, like group learning and working together on a project with a team. Certainly, you can set up group tasks with online learning platforms, but this isn't quite the same thing as the concrete skills you develop when interacting with others in person. And I'm sure you've all experienced that when you have to talk to each other on the screen. It's not quite the same as actually being in the same room with your friend. Given these limitations, it should not come as a surprise that the recent NIDS CRAM survey taken earlier this year reported severe learning losses amongst learners, despite all the work we put into e-learning and work catch-up plans. These losses are going to affect our learners, our schools, and our economy for years to come. I'm also deeply concerned about the mental health of our learners and teachers too, as they cope with the isolation and anxiety generated by this pandemic. On the one hand, remote learning is lonely. For learners used to seeing their classmates and friends 5 days a week, the extended school closure was especially tough. Even rotational timetabling disrupts their normal routine significantly. And of course, all of these safety protocols must be followed, which can be quite alienating also if you think about it. Masks and physical distancing is not something we naturally lean towards as humans. And since safety protocols have to be followed out of school as well, doing all the things that learners enjoy, like socializing with friends, is not as available as it was before COVID. It's tough to explain to our tiniest learners why they cannot go to school every day to see their friends, why they can't sit in the reading corner with their books or play like they used to. I recently heard of an 8-year-old who told their mother that they are feeling sad a lot and want to cry, missing out on all that they used to do. All the anxieties and the losses of the pandemic are weighing heavily on our learners. This highlights another important advantage of having children in class in person. Teachers can often be the first to notice when a child is struggling emotionally, having behavioral problems, or displaying signs of abuse. We have a strong referral pathway for learners that need this kind of support, with district psychologists and social workers ready to assist where needed. When learners are at home, it can be harder to identify such cases and support them. Our psychosocial support task team, set up during the hard lockdown last year, put in place a strategy to provide support for both our learners and staff. We looked at ways of optimizing low and moderate levels of support, such as online resources, information sessions, motivational talks and workshops, and accelerating access for those in need of high-level support, including counseling and referral services. Role players such as our specialized support services, safe schools, life orientation advisors, transform to perform staff, and NGOs were roped in. But ultimately, nothing can make the new normal seem like the old normal. We also know that the resources we have available do not nearly meet the needs out there, which are huge. The bottom line is that remote learning cannot replace normal schooling, and we don't expect it to. Our priority remains getting as many of our learners back to class full-time as soon as possible, while still keeping them safe and our teachers safe. I am pleased that our teachers are currently being vaccinated to give them the confidence to all return to class. I believe this will have a huge impact on also parents who will then be able to concentrate on their work if they're working from home, or at least go back to work because they don't have to worry about their children being at home. But this does not mean we can abandon the safety protocols, quite the contrary. A vaccine helps reduce your risk of getting seriously ill, but it doesn't mean you can't get COVID-19. We will, of course, continue developing our online learning offerings as they are valuable tools to help us to deal with disruptions like this and, of course, to teach our learners the 21st century skills that are so needed in our economy. I don't know how long we will still need to consider rotating timetables for, especially as we face the current third wave of infections. What I can assure is that we will continue to follow expert advice whenever we make decisions about learners being in class, and that we will do everything we can to address the learning losses in as safe a manner as possible. So I really hope that you enjoy your day today participating in the new normal provincial parliament. And I understand the speaker has allowed some time for people to ask questions, which I'm happy to take. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Yes, there are a few questions. It's a lineup of questions. I'm going to recognize the speakers. The first one is Layo Mulele, who is the Vice Chairperson in the Provincial Representative Council of Learners. Layo is from Fairmont High School, Cape Metro North. And then afterwards, there is a question from Zipobika, Calling Academy, Representative Cape Winelands. The third question will come from Unati Sandi, the RCL chairperson from Jonga High School in George, representing the Garden Route and the Central Karoo. So how is that person representing Central Karoo as well? But it's fine. We'll hear from her or from himself when he speaks. So the first one, please come forward, Mr. Alayo Mulele. You can come forward and ask the minister the question. Just to remind everybody else that is in the meeting, if you wish to speak, you are welcome to activate your camera and then speak. But if you are not speaking, please do not activate your camera and also do not activate your microphone. You may proceed, Layo.
Morning, everybody. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, and the minister is listening.
Thank you so much. My name is Lau. So the main question that I have for the minister is, what are ways in which we can improve communication as schools, different types of schools, so that we are able to help other schools that may not have, for example, access to certain gadgets? Because I know that my little sister's school, what they did last year was they asked parents who had old devices at home to bring them to donate them to the school, and then parents who needed devices for their children's online learning could register and those devices would be handed out. And I think on a larger scale, something to be done would be asking all the schools and all the parents in different schools to donate their devices to a certain checkpoint and then allocating them to certain students within different schools. But how would we do that on a larger scale, and how would we communicate that, and who do we get into contact with?
Thank you, Lau. Minister, are you going to take all three and then respond to all of them?
I'm happy to do other speakers. Up to you.
All right. Let me just take all the three. Thank you, Lau. You can now mute yourself.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now the next one is the Zipobika from Calling Academy, representative for the Cape Winelands. Zipo.
Thank you very much. I have a question. Like you had said, not many learners have access to internet and other basic necessities needed to connect. I just want to know if I know the government had helped many students in universities with data and other schools, but is there a sort of rollout plan where you guys could help maybe each and every school that is going to be using the virtual means of learning? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zippo. All right, Zippo, here we're not gonna teach you how to speak. Obviously, that's not what we do here. But we refer to ministers or delegates so that you are in parliament. You say fellow delegate, or you say honorable minister, or you say honorable members. So that next year we come here with a polished MP. In fact, I must join us in 2024 to represent young people in this province, right?
Yes, yes. Please do forgive me, honorable member.
I forgive you. I forgive you.
Thank you very
You
much.
didn't commit any crime. It's just a way of encouraging you to be able to, fit in this environment. As you articulate, you raise a very crucial point. I'm now going to go to the next one, and that is Unati from George Jonga High School. That is the RCL chairperson. Unati.
A very good morning to you, respected dignitaries. Minister, I'd like to ask you a question. So the country is currently experiencing the third wave of COVID-19, and there's a possibility that the infections and cases could go up. So let's say we are then forced to close down again. Has the parliament considered that yet? And if we close down, there would be a need for us to do internet learning again. But most of us don't have access to the resources such as data. So has the parliament put that into consideration? Thank you.
Thank you, Pegas. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just going to request the Honourable Minister to respond to Unati, Zico, and Layo in that order.
Back to front, Speaker.
You can respond
that
to
order.
that. No. In fact, not necessarily in that order, Honourable Minister,
Okay.
but you can respond to all of them. And that is the question that you have for now.
Thanks very much, Speaker, and thank you to the honourable members for the questions. To Lau, yes, that's a very good point, Lau, and I've really been trying to do something like that for the last few years without a lot of success. What I have done is I've spoken to the major cell phone companies because I was hoping that perhaps they could serve as a point of distribution. So we could do a campaign to ask people to donate their old devices, and then perhaps they could drop them off at their local cell phone dealer, or for example. And I haven't had uptake, unfortunately. There also seem to be quite a lot of problems. I don't know how you dealt with it in your school, and I'd be quite happy to hear from you on that. But regarding the RICA legislation, because every cell phone and SIM card and everything has to be registered to certain individuals, and there seemed to be quite a lot of administration if it was to be done by cell phone companies. So I actually would very much like to hear from you, and if you'd like to send a letter to my office, an email to my office, I'm sure the Speaker's office can give you the details. To tell me how you did it at your school, because I have really been trying to do that. And I do think if it's possible to do it and you've done it, that'll be great. And if we can copy from you, we always like to be a learning organization. We want to learn from each other. So I'd be very happy to hear from you. I know there are a lot of people who sit with old devices in their houses that they're not using anymore, which could be used by learners who don't have them. Zipo, very nice school. I know the Calling Academy. I hope you're having a good time there. Free data is, of course, the problem, and government can't afford to either. I mean, I know people see the amount of money government has, but the amount of money we have versus what we have to provide is just not enough. We have, in part of our e-learning strategy for many years now, been connecting schools. So most of our schools now are connected to broadband, so they do have access to that. But the local area network Wi-Fi in schools we're still busy rolling that out, but we are doing that on a consistent basis at our schools to try and ensure that everybody has some kind of access. The problem is during lockdown is that doesn't help because you're not at school. That's the thing. So people need it at their houses. And that's often where we find it's problematic. But there are a lot of free Wi-Fi hotspots that the Western Cape government has put in various places across the entire province. Sometimes you can access the school from outside the school, which causes us some other problems because we hear people congregating outside the school sometimes just to get access to the Wi-Fi. So we do have various access centres and so on where you can get free Wi-Fi. Even some supermarkets have got, and shopping centres have got free Wi-Fi. So if possible, I mean, we are providing the resources on our e-portal. As I say, all the locally produced ones are free to access. So even if you can access some kind of Wi-Fi spot, just to download those resources, that would be helpful, because it really is extremely difficult financial environment that we're in at the moment, as a country as a whole, and certainly as a province where we have another 20,000 learners per year coming to the Western Cape. So I would suggest you try to look at those options, but we certainly are rolling out more and more connectivity to schools every year. Unati, yes, you've probably heard that we are closing again, unfortunately or fortunately, but I mean, obviously we need to be careful and mindful of the dangers of COVID-19 and the spread of this new Delta variant, which we understand to be very contagious. So schools are closing again about a week and a half early. So it is being done as mindful as possible of the needs of learners, particularly our grade 12s and grade 11s. And we are going to be doing our winter programs. I understand we had a meeting very early this morning with the minister at 7 o'clock, and she told us that the president was very mindful, especially of our matrics. We are all very mindful of the impact that it has on closing schools, and we don't do it very easily. But when it comes to the rate of infections that we have at the moment, we just really have to be ultra careful and do what we can to try and break the cycle. Just you ask if Parliament is taken into account. Maybe just need to explain a little bit about the separation of powers. Parliament doesn't run the government, so Parliament does what you're doing today, arranges sittings of the House and debates, and they pass legislation. But we are members of the Parliament, but we also are members of the executive in government. And so the government is part of executive. We do the management of the budget in our departments in the government. So it's not the Parliament that would allow that to happen. It would be the Education Department. And as I say, we're doing absolutely everything possible, but it's just our resources are so stretched that we aren't able to do everything that we would like to do. Thank you very much, Speaker, and to the members for the questions.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. At this stage, I just want to indicate to those who asked the questions that is the responses from the Honourable Minister. There will be an opportunity as part of this program for the Minister for some of the delegates to engage the presentation by the Minister and to also articulate on what they have views and share ideas with us. So at this stage, Honourable Minister, if you want to stay on board or you want to leave, it's entirely up to you. But that is the nature of the program. We do also have the honourable members who will shed some light on the pertinent issues that you flagged in your own presentation, which will then obviously go as part of the program. We will also take some recommendations later on, which we send to the executive, whether it affects local, provincial or national. And that is also enabling us not to have a talk show here. So otherwise, then it doesn't help you. And for Lao's request, I will share the email address of my office and the stakeholders management unit in order to ensure that we create that pathway of communication. At this stage, thank you very much, Honourable Minister, on the wonderful interaction with our learners.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you to all the learners. I would love to stay with you. Unfortunately, I have a few crises to sort out as usual, so I'm not able to, but thank you very much. It was great being with you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Have a lovely day further. Now let us proceed with our program. I'm going to request the inputs from the honourable members. The first is the Honourable Bosman, who's the Chairperson of Social Development and the representative of the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. And he is speaking on the inputs by the Honourable Minister. You have 5 minutes, Honourable Member.
Good morning, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister and all of the delegates joining us this morning for our annual Youth Parliament. Speaker, the alarming youth unemployment rate in South Africa means that we need to do more in our pursuit to prepare young people for the world of work and the future of employment. This means that we need to shift our thinking and our approach, and we need to relook at the values we teach young people. I'm grateful to the Western Cape for having a values-based education system. Since the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted global schooling and the education sector, not just in South Africa, this crisis is exacerbating the pre-existing disparities that we know exists in the learning environment. The learning losses will extend well beyond this crisis, and it will impact on the future employment opportunities of our learners, as well as our economy and the future of this Western Cape. We need radical rethinking, Speaker, of not just the education sector, but of schooling and the use of content married with technology that facilitates actual learning. We need to build capacity that empowers not just teachers, but as Minister Schaefer said, empowers the parents to lead the learning journey that students undertake. Although this youth parliament is important, it is a sad state of youth engagement with many young people do not use the opportunities available to participate meaningfully in our democracy. This parliament, the Western Cape Parliament, sits weekly, but we seldom get participation from young people. And we need young people who are activists in all spheres of life to engage with all of the issues that affects them. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to engage with young people here today. Speaker, I was very sad to hear this morning that an honourable member of this House labelled this event as a waste of time. And I want to say that as the Democratic Alliance, we do not think this is an opportunity that is a waste of time. With that, I'd like your permission to hand over the remaining amount of time I have to the Provincial Youth Leader of the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape, Mr. Donovan Nelson.
Thank you, Honourable Bosman. Honourable members, delegates, I'm now recognizing the Youth Leader of the Western Cape Democratic Alliance Youth, Donovan Nelson.
Honourable Speaker, Madam Speaker, good morning, Honourable Minister of Education, as well as the members of the Provincial Parliament. Thank you very much for the platform, Speaker, and the opportunity to be part of this Youth Parliament today. I want to acknowledge the commitment of this House through your office, Honourable Speaker, to make young people part of the business of Parliament in this province. It is truly a remarkable initiative, and I want to thank you so much for that. I want to commend the Minister of Education, first and foremost, and the Ministry for the efforts that they have made to ensure that the Western Cape truly do have an inclusive education system. But I want to also mention, with the time I have left, Speaker, that now more than ever, we have an opportunity as a provincial government to ensure that there is an efficient strategy towards mainly, I think, zero-rated websites for schools in this province. Now, this will enable parents and teachers to have an efficient pathway to communication and to allow learners the access that they truly need in our communities. We know that so many of our communities cannot log on to internet and have to stand, as Minister has mentioned, around school grounds to actually do homework. And I think this is for us now an amazing opportunity as a provincial government to do so indeed. Speaker, teaching is not just teaching in a classroom, or education is not just teaching in a classroom, but it's a tool to arm our future young parliamentarians, future young engineers, future young business men and women of our country, and it's surely a tool to arm the future of South Africa. So I want to thank you so much for the opportunity today, Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. We appreciate your commentary, and we really would like to thank you for expressing those kind words towards what we're doing here in this parliament. We will continue to do this. It means a lot to us and to the many young people in this province. Thank you very much, and to Honourable Bosman. I now hand over to the Honourable Member, the Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Dagmo, who is here speaking for the ANC. in that capacity, and of course will be followed by Silas Khataza, who is the youth leader of the ANC in this regard. You have 5 minutes, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I have 3 minutes, and Silas Khataza, the Provincial ANC Youth Secretary, has 2 minutes, as I understand it. On the 26th of June, Speaker and colleagues, and I'd like to greet everyone, the youth in particular, and the South Africans came together and adopted the Freedom Charter. And one of the clauses in that Freedom Charter is that the doors of learning and culture shall be open to all. The pandemic has affected all of us, and that very objective of opening the doors of learning to culture, of learning and culture to all, has been severely affected by the pandemic. And that is, on this youth parliament, something that we should remember, that our country has made great strides since the dawn of democracy, but issues of inequality based on race and gender, geographic issues such as rural and urban, that those inequalities have actually got deeper in education, the digital divide, the fact that so many of our schools in the Western Cape have not yet benefited, excuse me, from the, they have not yet benefited from the connectivity at schools. Often many working class and rural families don't have connectivity at home. And these are the issues that we need to confront, just as the generation of 1976 stood up against apartheid education. My appeal to the RCL members here, the students and the youth, is that one of the key issues in the Western Cape that we are not dealing with, and we believe the provincial government is not dealing with, is the issue of inequality when it comes to infrastructure at schools, IT, and those were exposed. And unfortunately, the MEC in her input did not give hope. So what does that mean? We used to say in the 80s, each one teach one. An injury to one is an injury to all. So I request and plead with our young people, you are our future. And if there is inequality, as there is with digital access during this lockdown, issues of infrastructure, issues of funding for our schools, where there's an equitable share that is allocated to the Western Cape, kufuneka siza kupakama, ons moet opstaan as die jeug en sê, genoeg is genoeg. Dat ons wil seker hê dat ons skole, ons wil hê dat ons skole moet kwaliteit wees, and there must be equal and quality education to stand up and to be a reality. So we need, as the young people, to make a decision today that we are truly going to open those doors of learning and culture, that we are going to stand up. And we as the opposition, we want to find solutions. We are not enemies. We are working together where we can. We're differing. But for young people, it's in your hands. And we must be there to support you so that truly each one teach one, the doors of learning and culture. It is not acceptable that the hotspots were promised in every ward in the Western Cape, and those have not been realized. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition. You have taken some minutes from your youth leader, and
I'm very sorry.
You share 5 minutes. You share 5 minutes, and you've taken time. I was trying to
watch my timer here. I've realized I went overboard. Silas,
Silas, please proceed.
I'm sorry to abuse this house. My eyes are not good and I didn't check my time. Deep verskoning, Speaker.
All right, thank you. Silas, I will give you 2 minutes, Silas. I won't take the fact that you've lost your 2 minutes. Please speak for 2 minutes. I think there's a connectivity challenges there, Silas. Are you ready, Silas?
Honorable Speaker, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You've got 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I see my device does not allow me to switch on the camera and the mic at the same time. Greetings, Honorable Speaker and members of the House. My name is Sipho Selassie Khathaza, the Provincial Secretary of the ANC Youth League in the Western Cape. As we meet today, convened under the theme 365 Days Youth Lived Experiences under COVID-19 in the Western Cape. We are also meeting 2 days before the end of the Youth Month and the beginning of the Women's Month, which is next year. Next month. I think, Honorable Speaker, it is only fair to say that almost 3 decades into democratic dispensation, 45 years after the Soweto student uprising, the lives of young people have not changed at all. There is no significant and scientific difference between the youth of 1976 and the youth of today. In actual fact, young people of 1976 were at a much better place because they were alive to the sad realities of living under the apartheid government and decisively acted against the inhumane laws and policies of the time. Today, Honorable Speaker, young people take the bigger cut of the pie of the triple challenges, which are unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Consciously or unconsciously, the government is surrendering young people to crime, substance abuse, and gangsterism. An unemployed young person remains a possible victim of crime, substance abuse, and gangsterism. A young person who is not at school remains a possible victim of crime, substance abuse, and gangsterism. The Western Cape in the national top 30 stations of contact crime takes 8, with the following in order: Mitchell's Plain, Delft, Kylie, Chanyanga, Mfuleni, Kraaifontein, Cape Town Central, and Harare. The remaining 22 is shared by other provinces. This should signal a state of crisis. No young person can be able to develop under such condition. Innocent young people fear for their lives more than anything. Young people can no longer go to the libraries, internet cafe, Wi-Fi zone freely because crime has reached unacceptable levels in this province. Young people are sitting at home doing nothing and end up resorting to doing crime and joining gangs. It is about time that this government opens a parallel gang.
Thank you very much, Silas. Thank you very much. That's your time, and that is now come to an end. Let us go to, thank you for your inputs. We appreciate that. May I now give an opportunity to all the delegates to enjoy a cup of coffee like mine, so that we refresh. We'll be back here at 10 minutes past 12 sharp to hear from the Human Rights Commission, so that we're able to proceed with the program. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next 10 minutes, Honorable Murray. Welcome, Akbar.
Speaker, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are we all back? Cheers, everyone. I would like to welcome you all back from a short break. The comfort break ordinarily we would have used to take photos and pose for nice photographs to share with our communities and of course local media where we come from. And it was not possible because now we obviously not in that hybrid setup. But I'm sure you have taken some lovely photos of yourselves as you speak and still share with people, because this is still a session and it's still the parliament that you are attending. I hope that the same excitement exists. But we've heard now from the young people who've spoken the articulation of the views and sharing proposals and ideas with us. And thank you very much for that. Now, I would like to just reiterate some of the house rules. If you wish to have a translation done, interpretation services, just indicate to myself or to my support team in the chat room. It will be provided to you. The sign language is, as you can see, it's available. It's actually great to have the sign language in all our sessions. And thank you very much to the team for doing a great job here to interpret for all of those individuals from the communities who live with disabilities. Now, I'm going to request the South African Human Rights Commission, Mr. Matthew du Plessis, to talk to us on the status of human rights in the Western Cape during the COVID-19 lockdown. Mr. du Plessis, you've got 10 minutes and your 10 minutes starts now.
Thank you, Honourable Member. It is good. Oh, I was about to say good morning. No, it's already the afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Matthew du Plessis. I'm a Senior Legal Officer at the Western Cape Provincial Office of the South African Human Rights Commission. And my job is mainly to look at all of the complaints that are coming into our office day to day and try and find ways to deal with the complaints as they come before us. And then the provincial manager makes the final decision on each of those complaints. So my experience of human rights during the lockdown has been very, very interesting, and the effect of COVID-19, particularly from a youth perspective as well, has been incredibly interesting. And one of the most notable changes in human rights complaints trends have been that, well, we've received a lot of complaints from people about the lockdown, many of them arguing that the lockdown is a violation of their human rights. And with this new level that's come in this week, now that we're back to stage 4, we're expecting similar complaints. And some of them revolve around schools. We have people who complain that the schools should be opened. People complain that the schools shouldn't be opened. So the interesting thing is that there are differing views on all of these things. But what is very important for us to remember is that from a youth perspective now, is that Section 28 of the Constitution guarantees that the best interests of the child are paramount in all matters involving the child. So when we're speaking of education, that's something that we keep in mind. One of the reasons that schools were reopened at a time was that principle of the best interests of the child. So we understand that schools are being closed this week. And that brings us then to the other form of complaint we've received a lot of complaints about, is the placement of learners. We received complaints from late last year into early this year about learners not being placed in schools, or not being placed in adequate schools, placed in a school that's perhaps too far away, or placed in a school that doesn't have the right language for the learner in question. And the Department of Education has been helpful in those cases. And we have actually we've worked together with the department a few times to assist children. There was, in fact, a court case that happened very recently in the Constitutional Court. Five parents brought an application against the Western Cape Education Department regarding their placement, but the Constitutional Court dismissed the application because there were some factual issues in place, and the parties didn't really even know whether the children were placed or not. And then that brings us back to that original issue that the Commission seems to be getting a lot of, is parents and children saying that, look, we've been placed in schools, but we're not happy with the school for this reason or that reason. So there seems to be a lot of discontent, a lot of concern from parents and learners when it comes to their human right to a basic education. We've also noted that communities have started getting involved as well, and lodging complaints with us, saying that their entire community feels as though they haven't been assisted properly. But I think that progress is being made to address these issues. Progress is being made to address unplaced learners in the province. Another thing that I think is incredibly important for us to remember, and this isn't something that necessarily comes before the Commission all that much, but it is the effect that COVID has on school children and learners in particular, who are now forced to spend a lot more time at home. I think that mental health for our youth is a very important issue. And not being in school or going to school for shorter contracted periods is starting to also negatively affect children. And I think that it's important as a nation that we come together to support those children who are used to, in the past, having full days at school and social interaction and sport. Now all of that has been taken away or limited greatly to some extent. And it's very important that we focus on that and try to mitigate the damage that's going to come from that. I know that COVID compliance in schools also puts a bit of stress on children, having to socially distance and wear masks. It's all a very new environment. Well, it's not that new anymore. I mean, we've been doing it for over a year now, but it is a more stressful environment. So what we do see at the Commission as well is children who come through and complain to us or just ask us for advice, to say that, look, we're struggling with this. I don't get to see my friends anymore. What should I do? And then we do refer them. There are places that can assist, and the Department of Education has counselling services as well to help in cases like that. But I guess the point I'm making is that this is a difficult time for us as a country, and it is no less difficult on our youth. And the support that structures like this youth parliament offer are incredibly important. But the Commission is also there as well to assist. And I think it was in 2018, the Commission created a new complaint handling procedure, or at least it added something to its existing complaint handling procedure, specifically to allow children to lodge complaints more easily with the Commission. So there's a special process that the Commission follows if a child ever comes to lodge a complaint with us. And I'd like to highlight that today before the Youth Parliament and remind everyone that the Commission is there. So if a child has a human rights issue, or they feel that their human rights are being infringed or that their best interests are not being held paramount, then our provincial offices are available. You can contact us via email or telephone, or you can come through to the office. Our details are on our website, and we will then be able to assist, and we'll advise as carefully as we can. Unfortunately, not as many children as we thought have actually approached us through this method. There's definitely been an increase, and we've noted that more youth have come to ask for the Commission's assistance, but we actually want to improve that and increase those numbers. So some of our advocacy is focusing on schools at the moment, and events like this, we really appreciate the opportunity to speak to the youth and spread this message. So I think that's something I would like to highlight, is that the Commission is there for the entire country, and we do focus on the best interests of children, and we specifically want to assist if there are children who are struggling. So if you are struggling with anything in your school or at your home, and you feel that you need assistance, you can approach the Commission, and then we will assist as well. And if you have any questions, we are also open to answering that. But once a week at least, we get a student who's doing a project, and they ask human rights questions, and then they'll have an interview with one of us, and we'll explain the Bill of Rights and help them out for their project. I've actually got someone who sent an email to us just over this weekend, and we're gonna sit with them and give them some advice on human rights. So that's another thing we're open for. You don't necessarily need to have a human rights complaint, but if you've got a query, you can also come to us and we can assist. So thank you. That's all I have to add for now.
Thank you, Mr. du Plessis. We appreciate your very articulate and eloquent way of sharing a very complex matter and simplifying it for our young delegates here today. And I hope that you'll stick around in case there's a reference to anything that you may have shared with us. If you aren't able to, you are more than free to excuse yourself. But otherwise, this is a session that will last until just after 1 o'clock. And would like to thank you once more for sharing your input with us.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I will stay here to the end of the Parliament. I'd love to hear further inputs from people.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Thank you. Now I'm going straight to the office of the Commissioner for Children in the Western Cape. Just for the young people's attention, this is the only Commissioner for Children in South Africa, which is established in terms of the Provincial Constitution of the Western Cape. And I would like to request Ms. Tessa Goldsmith to talk to us and give some brief inputs on the children, youth challenges during the COVID-19 period. Over to you, Ms. Tessa Goldsmith.
Good afternoon, honourable speakers, honourable members of Parliament, and our guests in attendance today. I'm Tessa Goldschmidt, the Children's Commissioner Officer at the Office of the Western Cape Commissioner for Children, and I will be sharing some brief inputs, as the speaker said, from children on the challenges they faced in the first year of lockdown. So, one of the core functions of the office is to engage directly with children and to listen to their views on matters that affect their lives. So we connect with children in the province via our 2 child participation models. Our first one is the Child Government Monitors, and they are children who work with the Commissioner and they guide her on the rights and the needs and interests of children in the province. They also have opportunities to render input into the office. And then our second method is through community child rights workshops, where we share the mandate and we advocate with parents and children and stakeholders, and we also monitor the services provided to children by the government. So through our weekly discussions with children and in the communities we've visited, we learn to understand some of the challenges that children have experienced in the first year of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Now, some of the challenges that I highlight have already been raised by the honourable speakers and members who spoke before me. But now I will play you a very brief voice note on the inputs of one of our child government monitors.
The pandemic was challenging because the government was not taking into account the effects of all of this on our mental state. There weren't communicated resources that children could access help if they live in an unsafe home. We usually get information like that at schools, or we can ask help from our teachers. There were no safety nets for children. It's not just about not being listened to. There weren't adequate plans in place to support children during the pandemic, and the poverty in our country made it even worse for many children. Even now, our right to...
So that was Dushan who pointed out that due to the high level of poverty and inequality in our country, During the first year of the pandemic, it has been extremely challenging for children in many ways. So we live in a society that's highly characterized by violence, and this has increased dramatically during the pandemic. So many children's rights were violated and neglected in homes where they were not safe and nurtured. They were exposed to violence both outside in their communities as well as sometimes in the home. And one of the biggest challenges that always comes up in our conversations with children is the difficulties that they experienced with learning in COVID times. So with the platoon system and the resulting decrease in contact time at schools, especially last year during the hard lockdown, children said that their right to education was severely affected. They had said that, that the less contact time with educators, and they were also very concerned about whether they were learning what they were supposed to learn so that they could be promoted to the next grade and do as well as they can. So, with the less contact time, that also meant that children had to do most of their learning independently. And they then had to manage their schoolwork and their responsibilities in their home. And this was sometimes very challenging for children, especially in circumstances where they don't have supportive home environments, and where they can be where they can be assisted in the way that they really need. So we know that school is a safe place for many children who unfortunately do not have that in their homes. And with the less contact time that children had at school, they also had to deal with less access to their support system outside of their home environment. We know that many children have limited access to cell phones and data, so connecting virtually with their educators and their friends was also challenging. Children also had to deal with no physical contact at school when they could go. They could not hug and greet their friends and teachers as they usually did. So with the adjustment to distance learning, especially in the hard lockdown, children were not able to complete their school tasks, they said. They said they couldn't access the library, especially in level 5, to use the computers and the internet to do their tasks that they needed to do. So with the adaptation to this new normal now, children said that being indoors much more than usual, they felt very isolated. And because of the limited access to people and also to places, due to the restrictions that were imposed on our freedom of movement, they really felt isolated, and this affected their mental health. Children had to deal with, just like adults, the fear and anxiety of the virus, in addition to the stresses that they encounter in their everyday lives. And in one of the discussions last year with the commissioner, the children mentioned the underfunding of mental health in schools. They said that, they need adequate mental health policies in all schools to support learners. And it's not just the government's task, but also the responsibility of youth and society to break the stigma of mental health illnesses and challenges within the environment. So there was definitely a lot of frustration with children in terms of, dealing with the pandemic. And a lot of them also said that they became very frustrated when others did not follow the COVID rules and protocols, because that meant that they were more at risk. Children were very scared of contracting the virus and also transmitting the virus to their family members. They were very afraid of losing their loved ones. So we know that over 60% of children in our country is multidimensionally poor. And with the pandemic and the increase in unemployment, not only for adults, but also the youth, child hunger became a reality for so many more children. And the stress that was associated with that, not only for the adults, but also for the children and the youth. And we know that this is a problem globally. And despite the challenges that children, endured and they faced, they also said that, there was some positive experiences. Some mentioned they became more confident in their classrooms because of the smaller class size numbers. Others also said that, they enjoyed the increase in family time and the family activities. And I would just really like to take a moment to appreciate the children who work with us in our office and the other children who share their lived realities with us. And, as we continue on our journey, we need to do more to encourage children to participate in society as active citizens. We also need to do more to listen to their needs and engage with them so that we can provide the most adequate support that we possibly can, so that we can realize children's rights in our society. So there was Carol Bellamy who once said that, when you create a world that is truly fit for children, it does not simply mean the absence of war. It also means changing the world with children, ensuring their right to participation, and also that their views are heard and considered. So thank you very much, honorable speakers and honorable members, for today's engagement.
Thanks to you, Ms. Goldschmidt. We appreciate your contribution. And of course, please thank that young person there, that beautiful voice with that voice note, for sharing some insightful, and informative stuff that we should be aware of, especially coming from the lived experiences of young people. I'm going to now move, but at this stage, we've got young people that are going to contribute to the Minister of Education's remarks, just to share with us what their thinking is. On behalf of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, Ms. Goldschmidt, you must thank the commissioner that she gave you to us to share these kind remarks with this youth parliament. And obviously we work very closely together and we continue to do so. We appreciate that. The inputs by the learners on what the minister had to share with us will be led by the following learners: Kaylin Lee Martinez, which is the RCL member from Swellendam Secondary School in the Overberg District Municipality. And then you also have Mr. Rudolph Pedro, who is the chairperson of the RCL from York High, and the junior mayor of George, from the Garden Route district. And then we've got Pegval Gunthier. Please, when I speak, you don't speak. I will make sure that I protect you as well, that when you speak, nobody else speaks. That's the rules we follow in Parliament. You are in Parliament today, and let us please observe the decorum that goes with being in Parliament. There are rules here. Now let me proceed. Then we also have Pegval Kuonthier, it's a beautiful name, representative from Prince Albert in the Central Karoo. So I'll start with Kaylin Lee Martinez. It's 10 minutes altogether, so the time now is past, and let us proceed. Kaylin Lee Martinez, what are your views?
Speaker of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, Minister of Education, councillors, RCL members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kaylin Lee Martinez. I am a proud learner and RCL member of Swellendam Secondary School in the Overberg Education District and a member of the Western Cape Youth Parliament. My response to the speech of the Minister of Education: even before the pandemic, online learning had already begun to disrupt the low end of the traditional education before the pandemic struck. Although online learning can enhance access and affordability, many low-income learners lack the internet connectivities and hardware necessary to participate. I need to acknowledge that at our school a special effort was made by our principal and staff to liaise with the local municipality and service providers to accept with the donation in the form of data vouchers and Wi-Fi connectivities at school. Education could have benefited from better and more for IR education solutions during the corona crisis. Thus, it is time to reflect on the role for IR technologies should have in the future of education. But the danger looms, a new type of IR device is bound to arise as learners and need laptops or tablets as well as some type of internet access in order to benefit from access to online material. As educators grapple with new ways of communication with learners away from classroom, it is good time to reflect on how this disruptive crisis can help define what a new normal for learning should look like. The COVID-19 crisis may well change our world and our global outlook. It may also teach us about how education needs to change to be able to better prepare young learners from what the future might hold. It is possible with the mantra of the Western Cape Education this department, namely, enter to learn and live to serve. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Kylene. We really appreciate your contribution. And please thank your municipality for supporting this parliament, and of course to the school, Swellendam Secondary School, for allowing you to participate here. Now we go to Rudolph Pedro. Rudolph Pedro is the chairperson of the RCN in the York High, which is in George. Over to you, Rudolph.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. I have received an email asking me to write a 250-word paragraph on what my community's key youth priority areas are, so I'll deliver that. 57% likely to be bullied in school. 24% likely to struggle with feelings of depression and thoughts of suicide. And more than 50% likely to experience racial abuse. This, ladies and gentlemen, as well as the honourable members of Provincial Parliament, illustrates the countless obstacles that the youth of South Africa are forced to endure in 2021. There are, however, numerous ways in which you, me, we can help combat the nuances of these challenges. Schools play a significant role in eradicating these problems. So just like the Representative Council of Learners, I believe that every secondary, but also primary school in our country should be legally obliged to establish a transformation committee. This board should be implemented as a subcommittee of the school governing body to ensure that matters of transformation and inclusivity are acknowledged and dealt with. This committee can advise the school governing body and school management team on any policy discrimination, such as the infamous hair and language policies in various schools, and investigate complaints on specific instances of any form of discrimination. Furthermore, the crisis of learning difficulties and mental well-being should be acknowledged, and the process of seeking support should be expedited by the Transformation Committee. Lastly, this board can advise a school on different methods to create a safe environment where people of different races, religions, and cultures feel welcomed, as well as where members of the LGBTQIA+ community can freely express their authentic self without the fear of judgment or abuse. The youth deserve to be protected because, as Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela wisely said, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. I thank you, honourable members.
Wow, thank you, Honorable Mayor, Your Worship. Thank you, Mayor of the Junior Young People of George. So this is the Junior Mayor of George, who is also the chairperson of the RCL in York High. Thank you very much. That was excellent. I just want to.
That's my old school in George. I was the head boy there. I was the head boy.
Now I
I'm
understand.
very proud of this young man. I'm very proud of him.
Now I understand, and I'm not going to comment on what they taught you there at school. Well
Sorry
done.
for the interruption, but I had to. I was very emotional, very excited and proud.
Thank you very much for those remarks, and we can thank the municipality and of course the officials and the councillors who are assisting the mayoral team there. They've been participating as the municipality since we started off with the youth parliament, and we really appreciate the contribution. I now go to the representative of Prince Albert in the Central Karoo, and that is Pegval Kuntie.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You're welcome, Pegval.
So my input on this is maybe the government start working with NGOs that has the facilities to make e-learning possible in times like this. Because why in rural areas, I think that would be more practically. And they must strengthen e-learning interventions driven by NGOs, like making equipment and make Wi-Fi more accessible. Mobile sites are also an option for learners to have access to basic education information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. That was nice and sweet. Thank you very much. We appreciate your contribution, Pegval. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
No, sir. Sir is not pronouncing it right. So my name is Persville Kuntia.
Persville Kuntia.
Yes, Kuntia.
Kuntia. Thank you very much. My name is Masizole Masela.
Nice to meet, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks for participating here. Again, the Central Karoo has been participating here, and we really appreciate your contribution. Thank you. I now wish to move to the honorable members and request your contribution on the minister's input. I've got the honorable member and the leader of the FF Plus in the WCPP, who will be followed by the youth of the FF Plus, Daniel Nolte. You've got 5 minutes to share between the two of you, 3 minutes for yourself, honorable member, and 2 minutes for the youth leader. Let's begin now.
Speaker, members, in South Africa, COVID-19 has become the best excuse ever formulated for poor performance by educational planners and politicians who lack visionary thinking. COVID makes government ministers and officials smell like a rose. COVID now outweighs corruptions. It outweighs fake qualifications in the blame game. If COVID was a person, I'm sure it could have sued the government for defamation of its character. Speaker, education is the key to unlocking the hidden potential of your young learners. And the late Dr. Miles Monroe said, one of the greatest strategies in life is to watch potential die untapped. Even Nelson Mandela said in 1994, we have yet another hill before us. But this COVID pandemic has grown from a hill into a mountain, which every young person is expected to climb in order to realize their full potential. A mountain created through lack of funds, lack of technology, lack of high schools, lack of data, etc. And we make COVID the scapegoat instead of making ill discipline, ill fiscal discipline, monetary policies, and corruption, which have shaved off billions from government funds. We blame COVID. Government is now able to provide, during any state of disaster or state of emergency, they're not able to provide what the schools need, what the public needs, because they siphoned over these money. And children from poor families can now be compared to mountaineers who's expected to climb the Himalayas without any life-saving educational equipment. Let's look at the stats. The Western Cape Department admitted there's only one high school for every 3 primary schools in the Western Cape, and that is since 1994. There was no COVID in 1994. You couldn't blame COVID for that. Blame yourself. Speaker, Kailicha School enrolls 38 pupils. It initially rejected due to overcapacity. There's not enough schools to place an extra 19,000 learners, admitted the Western Cape Education Department at the beginning of the school year. So COVID has given us a lot of excuses. We must do our own soul searching. Of COVID will take us to court for defaming it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Murray. Bayadangi Afbare. I now give an opportunity to the FF Plus Youth Leader, Danielle Norton.
Thank you, honorable members, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It's no shock that COVID-19 had and still has a negative impact on our youth. Since the outset of the pandemic, more than 70% of youth who study or combine study with work have been adversely affected by the closing of schools, universities, and training centers. Young people have learned less since the beginning of the pandemic because of the transition from classroom to online and distance learning during lockdown. Despite their efforts to continue studying and training, half of them believed their studies would be delayed and 9% thought that they might fail. In the Western Cape, Stats SA paints a grim picture and shows that unemployment under the youth increased by 0.1% to 32.6% in the first quarter of 2021. The situation has been even worse for the youth living in lower income countries who have less access to the internet, a lack of equipment, and sometimes a lack of space at home. Dit vernietig nie net hul werk en werksvooruitsigte nie, maar dit ontwrig ook hul opleiding en dit 'n ernstige uitwerking op jong mense se geesteswelstand. Sommige het al 'n direkte impak ervaar en 1 uit elke 6 jeugdiges in Suid-Afrika moes sedert die aanvang van die pandemie werk staak. Baie jong mense is meer geneig om in beroepe wat werk geraak word, soos ondersteuningsdienste en verkoopsverwante werk, wat hulle baie meer kwesbaar maak vir ekonomiese gevolge van die pandemie. 42% van jong mense wat aanhou werk het, se inkomste het gedaal. Al hierdie het 'n massiewe effek op ons jeug se geestestoestand en daarom is daar toenemende stygings in depressie en angs onder jong mense. Speaker, the time has come that we should listen to the problems of the youth. There are many ways to solve youth unemployment, such as corruption reduction. Countries that have a high corruption rate, like South Africa, can end up wasting the stolen funds by the government unnecessarily. Reducing and fighting corruption in such places can create jobs for the youth. 25,000 gekwalifiseerde jeug van Suid-Afrika verlaat jaarliks ons land op soek na groener weivelde. Ons regering moet wegdoen met BEE en regstellende aksie. Jeugontwikkeling kan slegs plaasvind indien die regering 'n gunstige omgewing vir ekonomiese groei skep. Daarom is dit vandag in hierdie jeugparlement wat ek 'n beroep op elkeen van julle doen, elke politieke party.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Your time is up. Baie dankie. Baie dankie. I just want to appreciate the fact that you used your mother tongue. We've made an announcement. In fact, recently I've just made an announcement that anyone who wants to use the language other than English may indicate so that we've got a direct translation. One of our lines is not active today, and it made it difficult for simultaneous translation as we know it. But thank you very much for exercising that right. And thanks to the delegates for your patience and for your indulgence. I'm now going to give the Honorable Member Brenkes. No, it's not you now, Honorable Brenkes. I just see your face here. Yes, it is you.
Yes, I thought it was I thought it was my turn, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. It is indeed your turn. And then after yourself, I have Dr. Sarah Salih, the youth leader of the Al-Jama. You've got 5 minutes altogether, and I wish to give you an opportunity. You may proceed.
Oh, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, yes, and very good afternoon to all the honorable members present and all the youth, honorable youth present also today. A very good afternoon to you. Honorable Speaker, the President of the Al-Jama political party, Honorable Hanif Hendricks, had asked me to make an urgent appeal to the Premier of the Western Cape to commission without delay to set up a fully equipped field hospitals to save the lives of young people who are the new target of COVID-19. The Premier must show the youth he is giving leadership to the rest of the country, and that we do not need to send young people gasping for breath, for oxygen, to breathe for oxygen to the Eastern Cape. We had the best field hospitals. Set it up again, Honorable Premier, and please double the pandemic grant for the honorable members to help their noble effort to win the war against the pandemic to save young lives. The Al-Jama's youth leader, Dr. Sarah Salih, is on next on the speakers list and is also set to give great leadership to the youth in the Western Cape. Honorable Premier, please take a call and understand the fear of the young people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Brenkes. We had the Minister of Education addressing us, and I hope that the youth leader will at least respond to the Minister of Education. What you have raised is indeed a pertinent issue, and of course in line with what we're talking about, but we're providing responses to the address by the Minister of Education, also to help guide the Minister on how best the head department should be dealing with the matter. So thank you very much. And Dr. Salih, you may address us, and thank you very much. You've got 2 minutes, but because your leader used 2 minutes, now you've got 3 minutes. You may proceed.
Honorable members and fellow youth, COVID-19 has brought about a sudden shift from traditional learning in class to online learning. It was out of our control. But that is understandable because how does one prepare for such a scenario? There is no textbook. However, as students, we felt that the manner in which online learning was implemented left many of us feeling unsupported. The reality is that while the minority of South African students are privileged enough to undertake online learning effectively, the majority of us are unable to afford a study device, do not have internet connection, a study area, or just a desk, with many of us not having a quiet and safe environment that is conducive for learning to take place. Furthermore, students at the end of the day are human beings. We have lost parents, guardians, family, and friends to this virus. The emotional toll that is placed on an individual when losing a loved one, and even more so unexpectedly, affects our entire lives. And yes, it affects our academics as well. With that being said, honorable members, if online learning is what it takes for us to stay safe and prevent an uncontrollable spread of COVID-19 among us students and educators in the academic setting, we need you to help make education accessible for all students.
Honourable members, we ask of you to help facilitate online learning by firstly providing safe learning centres and to provide counselling services for students in need. And finally, when it comes to decision making, engage with students of many backgrounds and hear what we need before taking action. To conclude, I would like to remind you that our country's greatest asset is not our minerals. It is us, the youth. So invest in us because we are the future leaders of our countries. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sali. I really appreciate your responding again, sticking to the contribution by the minister, also providing your analogy of the issues plagued the environment of education, and of course, being able to respond to the general challenges affecting young people. May I now recognize the Honorable Brett Heron, the leader of Good in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Honorable Heron is alone. There is no youth leader from Good that will be speaking. So you've got 5 minutes, Honorable Heron.
Thank you, Speaker, and good afternoon. Speaker, last year we hosted a youth parliament and we focused on participation in parliamentary democracy. And young people came to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament and shared their views. But so what? What did we as the Western Cape Provincial Parliament do with those inputs? How did we adjust our parliament to make it more accessible to young people? How do we give young people a direct stake in issues of generational justice? These are the challenges we must grapple with today that will directly affect the lives of the generation that will inherit this democracy and country from us. These are serious issues that will affect generations to come. New pandemics, digital access, inequality, unemployment, access to further and higher education, climate change, poverty. With all due respect, Speaker, we cannot organize events that are purely symbolic. We must make meaningful change so that young people are properly involved in the solutions because they will inherit the outcomes. Hosting a so-called youth parliament once a year does not meet the greatest challenge of our time, the exclusion of young voices, ideas and solutions in the circumstances that directly affect them. As political leaders, we lament the increasing disinterest in participatory democracy, our elections, amongst young people. But we continue to alienate young people from active participation when we invite them to participate and fail to implement anything they say. That is insulting and a waste of time, and it reinforces that alienation from the political system. Speaker, on Saturday, I hosted a youth dialogue, and the overwhelming message from the participants was that they do not feel represented or heard by legislatures and parliament. With great respect, Speaker, hosting a once-a-year event like today's does not address the feeling of exclusion from decision-making that young people are experiencing. I thank the young people who participated today. Today we've heard excellent questions and inputs on learning during COVID and post-COVID, but these contributions cannot simply be recorded, perhaps considered by the Education Department, and that's it. And next year, Speaker, we will host another youth parliament and we'll have another topic to discuss. Different participants will sit here hopeful that their contributions will go somewhere, but they will never know. Speaker, a youth parliament must be a structure of our policy and lawmaking process where young voices are permanently considered. Last year, I proposed that we establish a permanent youth parliament, as many democracies around the world have done. Unless we institutionalize young youth participation, take their contribution seriously, give them a say in policy and lawmaking processes, we are wasting young people's time and alienating them from participatory democracy. It is for this reason that we will propose a constitutional amendment to introduce a permanent youth parliament. It is time, Speaker, that we took young people more seriously. To the young people who are here today, Do not allow us to listen to you and do nothing. Demand that your ideas and concerns are heard, demand that they are addressed, and demand that you are included in the process of designing your future. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Heron. And I welcome your views. And of course, we are developing these sectoral parliaments, and we do not have at this stage a benchmark within which to work from. We're setting a new benchmark because the sector as a whole does not have a permanent structure, and also other parliaments do not have a constitution, other provinces. So as a sector, I think there's a lot of work that we need to do. But I would have appreciated, of course, if your youth rep was here to also hear from them, but to also hear from the members earlier that before we started officially with the session, which you just reiterated that this is a waste of time. I think it is not. All of the delegates that are here because their views are serious to us. Their views, because I've convened this session as the speaker, and I do so because I take the sectoral forum seriously, sectoral parliament in particular. So we will share their inputs, Honorable Heron, and to all of the honorable members present here, with the members of the executive, and of course with any sphere that is affected by what is shared here with us. But I really would like to implore you, Honorable Heron, and of course the honorable members that are present here, all of them, all of you present, to listen to what the members, the young people are saying here, and take stock of the issues raised, so that these can find expression in the committee, in the agenda of the standing committees. And in that way, we're able to make progress. Then the parliament, as the parliamentary sittings, can also be informed of what are the issues that are raised by these young people, including the women's parliament that's coming in, also the disability parliament that will be coming in. So I would like to really use this platform to help us guide the work of the members of parliament in ensuring that we are able to really highlight and raise the issues that are raised by young people and respond as well. So we'll also produce a matrix of the issues raised and share with the young people that are attending here through their municipalities, and of course directly with them and through the organizations represented here. So I thought I needed to respond to this. Otherwise, it may affect how we see this program. And I think it's a great program. It's a third year in a row, and there's still much that is left in the program. So let me proceed and request that we get the messages of support from the representatives, Leila Low, Junior Mayor of Saldanha, and also the representative of the West Coast. And then we also have Musebetsi Museki from Defilias Graf High School in Tievaterskloof. I'm going to request that you go ahead. Then the next one will be Amanda Mkize from Hillcrest Secondary School in Mossel Bay, which is a representative of the Garden Route District. And then I was told that Denny L. Carolison will not be speaking, but somebody else will. Let me indicate that person closer to the time. And then we also have Inga Mfundisi from Overstrand, a representative from the Overstrand, and then Master Sergeant Major Amira Johnson, that is our SA Youth Cadet. So in keeping with the time, I'm going to request that each one of you you speak and keep to a limit of 250 words, and obviously you were briefed. I'm not going to go further. I now recognize Leila Low, the Junior Mayor of Saldanha.
Good afternoon, honourable members and honourable speaker. My name is Leila Lau and I'm the junior mayor of the Saldanha Bay district. The youth unemployment rate in our country at this moment is one of the key youth priority areas we as the youth in the Saldanha Bay district is experiencing. We see all around us the effects of our older peers not finding employment, and the statistics that rise day by day is frightening and leaves us hopelessness and with so much uncertainty. What can grade 12s do with a matric certificate today? Matric cannot and will not guarantee us a job. Yet, most of us cannot afford tertiary education. What are we as your youth to do? To leave school? To try our luck on street corners? These are only some of the questions we as youth have to battle with. We have to deal with life, COVID-19, our parents, and our own dreams and aspirations. We cannot still be worrying about employment. President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the youth on Youth Day, where he stated that creating opportunities and supporting the youth is the government's first priority. We are grateful and we appreciate the efforts from the government for making youth employment a priority. All we ask as the youth is for the solutions that the president promised to be implemented so that we can see tangible change in the youth unemployment rate. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Laila. We appreciate your contribution. I now, obviously, as the junior mayor of Saldanha Municipality, thank on our behalf the mayor and the councillors and officials for assisting in ensuring that you are here, and of course thank your community for allowing you to participate here today. I'm going to request Musebetsi Musegi from De Villiers Graaf High School in the Thebaderskloof municipality.
Good morning, Honourable Speaker and Honourable Members of Parliament and participants. It's a pleasure to be reading this essay and bringing attention to the youth priority. Starting with transportation. There's households that do not have access to their own or public transportation. They cannot acquire enough funds to pay for admission, or they live too far. For an example, some of them cannot participate in sports activities after school because of the lack of transport. Poverty. Poverty affects some of the children in our school. For an example, families are not able to provide their children with materials to further learning. These children also lack the motivation to do well in school. Now, especially during COVID-19 times, poverty has quite increased. And now that schools are closing, some of our school members don't have the adequate internet access to electronic devices, and they cannot participate in online schoolings. Schools suffer through the substance abuse. It reduces academic achievement and disrupts academic progression. Many have heavy adolescent substances use, which leads to problems with working memory and attention due to changes in adolescent brain activity. Young school kids start using drugs. There is a greater chance of them continuing to using them and becoming addicted later in life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Musebetsi. We appreciate your contribution. And of course, please, on our behalf, thank the municipality and the high school of the De Villiers Graaf for allowing you to participate here. We really appreciate your contribution. Now, I'm going to go straight to Amanda Mkhize from Hillcrest Secondary School in Mossel Bay, who is now the representative of the Garden Road District. Thank you. Amanda? Ms. Mkhize? Or you unmute? Yes. May proceed.
A very good afternoon to the Honourable Speaker and the members and also the delegates. I am Amanda Mkhize, doing grade 12 at Hillcrest Secondary School, and I am part of the Mossel Bay Junior Town Council and a representative of Garden Road District. So I want the members of the Provincial Parliament to bring to the attention of the executive the dropping out of the youth from school and colleges due to realizing that they're not academically inclined. Secondly, it is teenage pregnancies. Most of our youth are fully aware about concept of contraceptives. We need programs that will...
Amanda, if you may allow me, I think someone close to you has activated their microphone. So make sure that you are the only one whose microphone is on, and then you can speak. Then we're not going to have the problem. You may proceed.
Okay. Teenage pregnancy. Most of our youth are not fully aware about the concept of contraceptives. We need programs that will visit our communities, even the unprivileged communities also, and teach our youth the measures of preventing pregnancy. They need to be also inclusive and also involve boys and men about the correct use of condoms. The third one is the lack of necessary resources for our youth to finish school and to even complete their courses at colleges. Some come from poor and unprivileged households where parents cannot afford fees, proper uniform, and the resources required such as laptops, data, and also devices needed for remote learning. It gets worse because we have youth who live in poverty and they do not even get proper meals for a productive day. This lowers the youth's productivity and they fail and then decide that it is better off to quit school. The other point is the fact that the majority of the youth are suffering from depression. This pandemic had a very intensive strain on each and every one of us. Many of the youth are in denial of the fact that they are suffering from depression. Our youth is suffering and they're crying for help. That is why we have gangsterism in our communities. That is why we have the youth who are drug addicts. That is why we have the youth who are alcoholics, who bully each other. Our youth are mentally unstable and they need help. We are in desperate need of psychologists and therapists willing to counsel our youth in our communities through free sessions and help them heal from issues they don't talk about. Another issue and point is the lack of employment opportunities. Most of our youth are unemployed and some are not academically inclined, as I said before. We need mentors to initiate programs in our communities to train our youth on how to run successful small businesses. Instead of them wasting time looking for jobs that are not available, they create their own jobs. It's either they get trained on how to sell merchandise or they offer services like being a hairdresser, a barber, a painter, sell portraits. The list is endless. We need people to instill entrepreneurial mindsets among our youth. We need programs to sharpen our youth's talents so that they can have careers such as musicians, models, soccer players, rugby players. The list goes on. Lastly, but not least, we need more rehabilitation centers where the youth can find help. As I said, that our youth is suffering from depression due to the strain that the pandemic has had on each and every one of us. So in these centers, they can stop being alcoholics, drug addicts, and bullies. They get exposed to motivational speakers who will guide them towards building healthy lifestyles, being able to make the right lifestyle choices, having positive self-image and attitude. They can then be able to make a success out of themselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amanda. We appreciate your contribution. And of course, please thank your municipality, Mossel Bay, for once again participating and assisting in ensuring that you come through to talk to us. And thank your school, Hillcrest Secondary School, for supporting you. Really, it's a great contribution. I'm now going to go to the next contributor, that is replacing Danielle. So the person that is going to be talking to us is Kokelo. Kokelo Tochen, you may go ahead. And you're from Diazville. Are you from Diazville, Saldanha?
Yes, sir, I am from Diazville.
Yes, thank you very much. And you may proceed, sir.
Okay, thank you. Fellow South Africans, I am addressing you this evening on a matter of national importance. The world is facing a medical emergency far graver than we have experienced in over a century. This was the message greeting South Africans on the evening of 15th March 2020. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, special greeting to Madam Schaefer, our MEC for Education. My name is Kokelo Tochen from Diazville High in Saldanha. Please allow me to share the following priority areas for the youth in my community. So much has been said about COVID and the havoc it created, but it also placed so much emphasis on the future of our country. Let us face it, the future of our country lies on the shoulders of our youth. In fact, it must be the backbone of our country, and it is something our leadership corps have come to realize because we are about 37% of our country's population. This is what COVID laid bare in my community as priority areas. Number one, computer centers for the future of education seems to head towards e-learning. Employment opportunities for the youth, but the emphasis should be on sustainable jobs. An urgent social intervention strategy to combat the scourge of drug abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, the West Coast urgently needs a rehabilitation center. This center should also house trained facilitators to educate the youth on gender-based violence. Recreational facilities such as parks, educational excursions funded by government so that school-going kids can broaden their horizons. Partnerships with provincial and national sport heroes to be more involved in sport codes such as soccer, rugby, netball, so that they come and share their skills with the youth. Our youth need better role models. Bring these stars to our communities and let them share their experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, the youth unemployment rate in 2020 was staggering 55%. And what is more concerning is the fact that the youth makes out 37% of South African population. We, as the youth, should take the lead in all the above programs. We don't need any reminder of what the youth of 1976 has achieved. The future development of South Africa depends on the youth, and we should look beyond the challenges of COVID. And South Africa has people with innovative ideas. The late Mr. Ronald Koch, one of our very own, proved that in 2020 with his invention. We have walked this COVID road, made missteps along the way, but knowing South Africans as a resilient nation, as a united force, we will overcome this pandemic and take our country forward. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Sikokele. We also have been made aware that you are the Junior Speaker of Saldanha Municipality. Thank you very much. Again, thank the municipality for allowing you to participate and supporting you. And of course, the Deersville High for your support, for supporting our program of the Youth Parliament. And good luck with everything. I now wish to go to Overstrand Municipality, and Inga Mfundisi is the representative. You may please go ahead, Inga. Cover Inc. Albagan. Kaupindo Tede Strong. Yeah, we still can't hear you. Yes, just press that button, mute and unmute, and see whether it's gonna change. Unmute again. Can you speak again? All right. You may stop. Let's just talk to your the municipality there. I see you in the boardroom there, and just ask them to assist you. We'll come back to you. Just sort yourself out whilst we proceed to the next speaker. The Master Sergeant Major Amira Johnson, the SA Youth Cadet. I will now recognize you.
Good afternoon, members of Parliament. I'm the Master Sergeant Major of the South African Youth Cadets. So the South African Youth Cadets is an interfaith semi-military institute based in South Africa. It is where we do not see cultural diversity as animosity, but where we view it as an opportunity to act in unison. It was established in 2018 by its visionary Dr. Randall Peterson in order to develop and inspire the youth of the struggling nation to become ethical and liberal leaders of the future. So there are some methods that I would like to bring forth, such as there are many young adolescents that drop out of school due to selling drugs or because they are being pulled into the corners of gangsterism. Something needs to be done about this. I'm here to articulate my opinion on the current realities, such as sexual harassment cases and rape cases that have still occurred and risen despite it being during the lockdown period of last year. Our cadet base has been moved from venue to venue for more than 5 times now, and we can no longer be nomadic because we need stability. We need a place that we need to call home to set our roots. Some of the cadets that come to drilling come on an empty stomach. They lose opportunities where they, because of financial problems, because they cannot attend the team building camps that we offer them. We have raffles and we have fooding schemes, but that can only help to a certain extent because everybody else is also struggling. I would like people to take the time to visit us on Saturdays, to witness our drilling, to see the way we conduct ourselves, because it is truly inspiring that we as young youth are taking the time and being motivated to join such an institution that in the end it benefits us because we are unlocking our potential. That's an accident.
Okay. Are you done, Amira?
No, sorry. I went out of the chat by accident.
Okay.
So we need leaders to lead us into the future. We need a base. We need transportation. But at the same time, we are reaching out. We are the ones that have come into an institute like this to better ourselves, to seek discipline and ethics. And I also like to give a big thanks to Honorable Cameron Dougmore for always checking in on us, for the people that help with our fooding schemes, and for anyone that likes to know anything else, we can find us on Facebook, and our email address is at dynamicleadership1@gmail.com. We have a training manual. You can get it at Dr. Randall's telephone number. I'll repeat it. It will be 078-079-3247. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. We are trying to race against time. I'll now give to Inga Mfundis. Thanks once again. Amira, we appreciate your contribution and for your work you do with the SA Youth Cadet. Please give our heartfelt appreciation to your team and your support there. Inga, are you now ready? Overstrand Municipality, can you help Inga to connect, please? We can see her. However, the system that she has there does not deliver the audio this side, so you are not audible. In the meantime, I'm going to afford the youth from the Cape Winelands to address us. I'll give you 2 minutes, please, to talk to us. Are you ready, Cape Winelands?
Honorable Speaker, good afternoon. Honorable Deputy Speaker and here in Stellenbosch, we as the youth and around South Africa are the heartbeat of everything that is happening. We have also been hard by circumstances surrounding us, including poverty and attacks on the LGBTQA+ community. I'll touch on drugs a bit, that drugs these days are easier to get, unlike how hard it is to get a job. parks have become smoke epicenters and corners on our illegal business trading points. Law enforcement has failed us as the youth, and we need harder rules, and we need them to bust these operations to break the systematic business down. On poverty, poverty is still and will always be a huge problem for the youth. I've made up a statistic where as 1 in 50 youth in Kayamandi live in informal settlements, and many don't have the basic necessities to make it through. And this is what pushes them to resort to extreme measures such as crime. And here on the attacks on the LGBT plus community is that Stellenbosch is not a town of controversy, but somehow controversy has taken place, and the queer community seems to be getting attacks more and more. We as the people need to recognize them as humans as well as who function like all of us and don't differ because of their sexual orientation. I hope the provincial government can not only protect them, but treat them with the respect and humanity that they deserve. We should start with informing the people of who the people of the LGBTQA plus community are as a whole, and stop the disgraceful stigma surrounding them, as they are also innocent people. Hopefully all can be rectified, and here's a quote to get everyone going, and it's by Albert Einstein. I quote, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them," close quotes. And a new reality has dawned upon us a year ago, and we are still adjusting to this reality. We, as the youth, hold the power to change this. We can either play the duckling following the leader, or the leader having the followers and leading the people into a better and manageable reality. It is up to us, fellow delegates, to see to that the people are safe, informed, and know the next move. It has been said, we are the future, and the future is near. Let us prepare and set the next foot into the future. I thank you.
Thank you very much to yourself, Mstegas. Let me just go back to Zipobika from Coding Academy and the representative of the Cape Winelands. We appreciate your contribution and thank you for not exceeding your time. I just want to thank your municipality and of course the councillors there and the officials for assisting you, and of course to your school for supporting you to participate in this parliament. I now wish to request that the person from Overstrand, Inga, are you now ready to talk to us, Inga Mfundis? All right. It seems Overstrand is a problem there. Yeah, we can't hear you. I think they need to use a different device. Inga, yeah, we still can't hear you. We'll proceed with our program. If your municipality finds an alternative, we'll give you an opportunity to speak before we end the program. Hopefully you'll find time. I now move straight to the Electoral Commission of the South African government. So our Electoral Commission, which is called IEC, is going to brief us. Mr. Chris Bali, who is now ready to talk to us. Mr. Bali, will you please proceed? Thank you for joining us here. We appreciate that.
Thank you, honorable members of the Provincial Parliament, members of the respective RCLs, all other attendees. Protocol has been observed. I greet you all during a very difficult time, a time where our livelihoods have been uprooted, our economy weak, our spirit dampening. However, the show must go on. The IEC is mandated by the Constitution, Section 190 of our beloved country, to compile and maintain a national common voters roll. This voters roll comprises of two sections, the verified section and the rejected portion of the voters roll. Only persons whose name appear on the verified section of this voters roll will be allowed to participate in a given election by casting their votes. We as the Commission thus bears the responsibility to ensure that we create conducive platforms that enable our citizens to register to vote and be on the verified section of the voters roll. The IEC has offices in all the municipalities in the Western Cape. These offices are served by a local electoral project officer. And the Commission has publicized registration weekend where all voting stations will be open for purposes to register, edit your detail, or re-register. These dates will be 17 and 18 July. If you have registered before, you can now update or edit your details on the official IEC website. And I repeat this, if you have registered before, you can now update, edit your details on the official IEC website, www.elections.org.za. You create a profile and do the necessary changes, which will instantaneously take effect once you have submitted it. In order to register to vote, the following applies. You have to be 16 or older, but you can only vote when you are 18. You have to be in possession of one of the following. You have to apply in person. You must be a South African citizen. You must have either a green barcoded ID document, but that won't apply for 16 to 18 years because they get the ID card. So you must have either a green barcoded ID or an ID card or a temporary ID document that Home Affairs will issue to you. Although all these platforms are created, registrations among our youth is still worrisome. And I just want to give you the following detail. In March this year, the total registrations for 16 to 18 years in the Western Cape was only 523. And the 2011 statistics information shows about 300,000 16 to 18 years. It's worrying. We have a memorandum of understanding with Department of Basic Education in order to infiltrate schools by manner of a schools democracy program. We urge our young people to register in order to fulfill their constitutional rights to vote. Voting is much more than only making a mark. It's a right with great responsibility. You as young people are the leaders, not of tomorrow, but of now. And I repeat, you as young people are the leaders, not of tomorrow, but of now. You have the destiny in your hands, so we therefore would like to make use of this opportunity to appeal to all the leaders present here to motivate your peers, motivate your friends, motivate your fellow scholars to register in order to vote in the upcoming elections. I also want to leave our contact details with you. It's info Western Cape or info WC. Info WC at elections.org.za. Even if it is not possible now, but in future, to engage with your school or your organization to do democracy education so that our current leaders are informed for the future. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bali. I've learned something here now that when you're given 10 minutes, use half. I appreciate that, and thank you very much. You know, in Parliament here, when you give 10 minutes to a member, that is actually 10 plus 1.
Okay, I thought if you gave us 10 minutes, but you actually said please just use 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. There's something that the honorable members can learn greatly. We appreciate your contribution, and of course the questions that will be forwarded to the IEC by the young people will be done so through the information that we have given. But also I will share some details regarding the other platform for our young people here that they can use, which eventually will lead to us forwarding those questions to yourself and to your colleagues should they arise. But we are really appreciating your contribution.
Can I just share the following information with you too? We do have a Facebook page that we focus on the young people. It's Sia Vota. We are voting. Sia Vota. That's the name of our Facebook page. And our young people can feel free because we also share short video clips for our young people and short images to encourage them to participate. I thank you very much for this opportunity. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, and obviously we appreciate your support as the Electoral Commission. And whenever we call on you, you come forward, and please thank the Provincial Liaison Officer in this regard. We really appreciate that, and we'll convey our heartfelt appreciation to the principals of the Electoral Commission in this regard. May I then, at this point, request once more, Inga Uredingok. All right, Inga is now back with us, and that is a representative from the Overstrand municipality in the Overberg district municipality. Now you may proceed, Inga.
If you'll allow me, I just would like to ask the previous speaker, how do you spell the Sia Vota? Just if you will allow me to, please, so that we can look for it on Facebook.
All right, we'll do that. We'll do that. Mr. Bali?
SIYAVOTA.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah, that the page focus on the young people.
All right. Thank you very much, and Paya Tanki Afpare Mare. May I request, Inga, you've got 3 minutes. You may proceed.
Honorable members, fellow delegates, and esteemed guests, greetings. I am Inga Kulele Fundisi, an 18-year-old advocate for youth development and social justice, and I'm honored to be the representative of the Overberg municipality. Broken and unequal educational opportunities in South Africa, perpetuating poverty and inequality. A staggering 46.3% of the youth aren't receiving vocational training or youth development opportunities, leading to a greater number of vulnerable children and youth, especially in marginalized communities. It is with no doubt that food insecurity and youth unemployment have exacerbated due to the drastic effects of COVID-19, highlighting yet again the inequalities that exist in our country. The question begs, how do we redress the issue that continues the downward cycle of poverty? I believe that now more than ever is time to focus attention on the implementation of sustainable projects in an effort to uplift the underprivileged, helping individuals live independently from once-off food donations. I have witnessed many children and youth who are solely dependent on feeding schemes from my community not having any sources of survival, given the fact that their parents had been retrenched due to the COVID-19 catastrophe. The disadvantaged from communities like mine are in a far worse position, and the help that they receive from time to time has decreased significantly. Robust solutions that can be put into place would be youth development programs. It could be use of labor-intensive technology, services and employment growth, as well as accelerating the investment in agriculture in rural areas. In conclusion, this is a call for solidarity and action. As a representative of the Overstrand, I firmly believe that youth development programs are an essential to breaking the cycle of endemic poverty. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Inga. Inga is from Overstrand municipality in Zwelihle. For those who don't know, that is my constituency. I'm very proud that we've got young people as sharp and as strong and as articulate as you are. Thank you very much. And obviously, that is I think the honorable members can accept that that is the standard that we've seen today. We've been very much blessed with the quality and the insightful message, and of course the articulation of ideas and the contest of a variety of analogies that exist in the definition of what we see today. And we do have a lot of work to do, I think, as Parliament and of course the Western Cape government to ensure that we do not let down these young people. We need to appreciate that in the VUCA world, the world of vulnerability, the world of ambiguity, the world of uncertainty, the world of complexity, and of course, in the world where things continue to change, our responsibility is to support our young people and give them the platform. And this platform is designed to hear from you as young people. And I know you connected now virtually and were unable to meet in person and to really touch and feel and be able to look each other in the eye. But you have used this platform today to express yourselves, and we have heard you. We have heard the issues that you've raised with us, and we have heard your cries, and we have heard some of the challenges that are pressing on a daily basis, and we wish to respond in the best possible way in ensuring that we address them. And I just think that as the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, there's much more work that we need to do, and of course to embrace the whole principle of the agile working environment, where in our agility, we appreciate the fact that not everyone is equal. We have got a serious challenge with inequality in South Africa, and the Western Cape is not an exception. And so we'll then recognize the fact that the Minister of Education has indicated to us that sharing the hardware in terms of the laptops, whether it's mobile phones, we need to find ways that are creative to share with one another. And of course, there's the Provincial Parliament. Ours is to also look for a zero-rated platform, which we have been pursuing. And we're looking at ways that are creative in order to ensure that we maximize our reach and maximize our participation. But this has been a successful youth parliament, and we're glad that we've been able to host it despite the shortcomings and of course the limitations that came as a result of the president's address last night. But this has been successful. Every single delegate that we expected to participate did manage to connect. And thank you to Ms. Fouchier, the Secretary to Parliament, the Office of the Speaker, everybody that has been assisting here, the municipalities from the Overberg to the Garden Route to the Central Karoo, the Cape Winelands, the West Coast, the City of Cape Town. Thank you, and thank you very much for assisting us, to organizations in our communities, the NGOs, for really coming forward to make this youth parliament work by allowing connectivity and supporting our young people. And lastly, to the political parties, thank you for making this platform useful, and this platform, a platform that is exactly what we intended, a platform for young people. And thank you for inviting your young people from the youth formations to participate here, because we needed to hear them, and we have heard them. Thank you very much. I am going to share some details with all of you for ensuring that we can follow up by writing to us if you have questions, as we indicated. So we'll share that information with you so that you're able to write to us. I just want to thank my table staff here. I've got my table staff here, Owona, Madlingos, Sam Bainon, and of course, Temba, who has been really working with me here. We've created a very user-friendly system where we are able to monitor this sitting as it proceeds. So let me give the details of Owona. If you can just record this, but also it's in the chat room, but I'm just gonna read it here for record purposes. owona.madlingozi@wcpp.gov.za. owona.madlingozi@wcpp.gov.za. It's in the chat room as well. So you write there to ask questions that were not responded to. Maybe you want to forward some information that is pertinent to what we had here today. Then we can respond by sharing it with the members in the cabinet, our ministers. Lastly, I want to thank the Minister of Education for coming through, and thank the chairperson and the chief whip, the chairperson of the COVID-19 committee and the chief whip of the majority party. I want to thank the leaders of political parties who were present here, Honorable Dagmo, and thank the Honorable Murray, thank you, Honorable Heron, and thank Honorable Bosman, thank Honorable Brankes, and thank you for speaking here, and of course, for sharing your views with the young people here. This is now the end. IEC, I've thanked you earlier, and the Commissioner for Young People in the Western Cape, for Children, we thank you again once more, and the South African Human Rights Commission. So we've now reached the end of this session, and I must say that it's been an awesome opportunity to listen to all of you. South Africa is in a better place, and we know in your hands, the Western Cape is in a much better place because of you. So we hope that you will help us to do better as we improve in the work that we do. I do want to finally, when you thank people, you must be careful so that you don't leave others. But I want to appreciate here the work that has been done by the interpretation services, the sign language interpreters, Beryl Porter, Bayadanki, thank you very much. And Amira Baker, thank you very much for the work that you've done. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course to Mr. Walter Tala and to Sandy Lekilishe, thank you very much. We have now reached the end. Ms. Fouchier, Mr. Secretary, my office, the Office of the Speaker, thank you very much. We have now reached the end. Municipalities, we see you. Bayadanki, Councillor Strubel and Councillor Mdemka, I've seen you there. You were very much busy. Thank you for believing in the work that we do here in Parliament. Thank you very much to you all. That's the end of the Parliament for 2021. Ons is baie dankbaar dat julle is hier is. Tot ziens. Lekker dag.